When I was just a 10-year-old kid, I had an experience that would stick with me for years to come. You know how you're always more sensitive to the sounds and movements in your own room? Well, one night, I was jarred awake by the creaking sound of my bedroom door as it slowly swung open. Then I felt a slight shift in the weight on my bed as if someone had decided to sit down. Naturally, I thought it was my mom checking on me as she often did. But when I rubbed my eyes and blinked them open, I was met with a sight that was anything but natural. Instead of my mom, there sat a boy, probably about my age, at the foot of my bed. The shocking part was his eyes, or rather the lack of them. He had these deep, black, empty sockets where his eyes should have been. I remember my heart skipping a beat. But before I could scream or even move, he held out his hand. In it, he held a small box. I was scared, yes, but also strangely compelled. I reached out to take the box, but he quickly pulled back. Confused and a bit irritated, I tried again, this time demanding, "Give it." Just as I said that, I blinked. When I opened my eyes again, the boy was gone, vanished into thin air. But the imprint on my bed where he had sat was still there, a chilling reminder of what I had just seen. Fast forward 5 years, when I was 15, my girlfriend at the time came over to my place. We had planned to work on our homework together. After we finished, she decided to take a short nap while waiting for her parents to pick her up. When they finally arrived, I tried to wake her, but she suddenly shot her eyes open, looking directly at a spot where the wall met the ceiling. She pointed up at the spot, mumbled something in her sleep, and then drifted back off. I shook her again until she woke up fully and explained what she had just done. She looked horrified. When I followed her gaze to the spot on the wall, my blood ran cold. There he was, the same eyeless boy from 5 years ago, in a Spider-Man pose, staring directly at me. I was petrified, but I managed to tell her about the incident from my childhood. It was the same kid, no doubt about it. Fast forward yet another 5 years. My girlfriend and I were still together, and by then we had a 2-year-old daughter. We were living in my parents' house, in the very same room where I first saw the eyeless boy. Our daughter started to wake up at the same time every night, and we would hear her talking. After a while, we realized she was having nearly the same conversation every single night. One night, out of curiosity, I asked her who she was talking to. Her reply sent chills down my spine. "It's a little boy," she said. "He's nice. He's lost and looking for his mommy." Our daughter's nighttime chats with the eyeless boy continued until we moved out later that year. It was an eerie chapter of our lives, but it's now just a memory, albeit a vivid one. I often wonder about that eyeless boy and hope he found what he was looking for.
Several years back, I made the move to a single-bedroom flat in Melbourne, Australia. It was my first solo living experience. The apartment complex, a relic from the 1930s, had this undeniable aura of history, and maybe something more. A few months in, I came home from a grueling day at work, only to find a bizarre sight in the bathroom. A wooden board that had previously sealed an opening to a tiny attic space was now split in two, lying discarded on the bathroom floor. I inspected the shattered pieces. The board was a solid inch thick. It would have taken the strength of a martial arts master to snap it. My mind raced with possibilities. Had the landlord sent someone to do some work in the attic without telling me? Fear gripped me as I entertained another thought. Was someone hiding up there? I shot off an email to the landlord, attaching pictures of the broken board and voicing my annoyance at not being notified of any maintenance. Her response was unnerving. "Please call me as soon as you are able to." When I called, she revealed that the last 2 tenants had experienced the same thing. She offered to replace the board, and she did. About a month later, I found myself jolted awake at the ungodly hour of 4 a.m. Goosebumps prickled all over my body, and I had this eerie sensation of invisible hands running over me. The silence was almost deafening until I heard it, a slow, dragging sound coming from right above my bed. It was as if someone was hauling a heavy sack across the floor. I was paralyzed, certain there was someone up there. No animal could replicate that sound. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I managed to muster the courage to flick on the light. I grabbed a cricket bat for protection and cautiously made my way to the bathroom. My heart sank as I saw the new board, once again split in two. The dragging sound had ceased, but now I could hear something else, hushed whispers. The words were unmistakable, they were coming from the attic, repeating over and over again in what sounded like children's voices. "It's your turn. It's your turn." Frantically, I switched on every light in the apartment, trying to chase away the growing fear with the artificial glow. But it was still pitch black outside. To try and take my mind off things, I flicked on the TV. Just as I was beginning to calm down, a fuse blew, plunging the apartment into darkness. My pet budgie, Dexter, who was usually silent as a church mouse at night, started squawking violently from his cage in the kitchen. It sounded like he was being attacked. I was terrified. In a panic, I grabbed my car keys and bolted out of the apartment, seeking refuge in my car until the break of dawn. As people began to stir, walking their dogs in the soft morning light, I felt a sense of normalcy returning. I gathered the courage to re-enter my apartment. The front door was wide open, but I brushed it off, thinking I might have left it that way in my haste. I made a beeline for the kitchen to check on Dexter. But when I got there, his cage was empty. My heart pounded in my chest as I scanned the room. Dexter was gone. I felt sick again. All my windows were closed, so I looked everywhere inside. When I walked to the bathroom, I heard splashing. Dexter was half drowned in the toilet. I took him out, washed him and dried him. I was so confused. At 8 a.m., I called the landlord and gave her a watered-down version of the night. "Oh, wow, you heard the whispering too," she said. I stayed in that apartment for another 18 months. I heard the whispering occasionally, and twice the board covering the hole in the ceiling moved. Although I live elsewhere now, the landlord recently called. She said that her new tenants had begged to speak with me about some of the stuff that's been going on there. But there's no way in hell I'm getting involved in that again. Not too long ago, my mother shared with me a haunting tale from her teenage years. She wasn't the only one with eerie experiences. Other houses on her street had their fair share of strange occurrences. A family living just a few doors down from her experienced a tragedy that would forever leave its mark on their home. One dreadful night, the family's daughter went to bed complaining of a severe headache. By the next morning, she was dead, taken suddenly by a ruptured aneurysm. The family was devastated, and in an attempt to ease their pain, they took a trip to get away from the sorrowful memories of their house. The father asked my uncle, my mom's brother, to look after their pets while they were away. My parents, who were dating at the time, decided to accompany my uncle. My mother, an avid pianist, had heard about a grand piano in the house and couldn't pass up the opportunity to play it. Meanwhile, my dad, an aspiring veterinarian, was eager to help with the animals. Upon entering the house, my uncle and father ventured down to the basement to tend to the pets, while my mother made her way to the ground floor to find the grand piano. As she began to play the magnificent instrument, she suddenly felt something brush against her ankles. Assuming a cat had slipped past her and wandered upstairs, she continued playing. But then, it happened again. She glanced under the piano, expecting to find a feline companion, but saw nothing. Despite the unsettling experience, she resumed playing. It wasn't long before she felt a pair of hands firmly grasp her legs. Frightened, she bolted to the basement door, calling for my uncle and father, refusing to be alone in the house. As they gathered outside, my uncle noticed my mother's distress and inquired about what had happened. As she recounted the chilling incident, my uncle's face turned ghostly pale. He hesitantly shared that the deceased daughter had a favorite game she used to play with her father. Whenever he played the piano, she would crawl underneath, grab his ankles, and playfully push his feet up and down on the pedals,